Alright, so we just touched down at Angel Island, and this is the bay right here, I guess you could call it. The bay, or the port of Ayala, I think. So he was the first person to kind of dock up here in the 1700s, part of an early Spanish exploration of California. He didn't actually touch down on the island, but he was the first one to dock. But it's pretty cool to see, you know, the same little port thing that they saw back in the 1700s. Nice picnic area. Alright, so this is the visitor center, which probably has a lot of cool information, but we're gonna bypass that and just try to see some other cool off the beaten path kind of stuff. But everything's pretty much on the path here, so you know, it is what it is. Employee residence, so people are staying there? I believe it. It's not that like messed up looking. It does look old though. Little generator, barbecue. Tiburon should be. I think Sausalito's more over there. Okay, what's going on? So today we're checking out Angel Island, which is in the San Francisco Bay, pretty close to Alcatraz. But what's interesting about this place is that there is a lot of history tied to it, and there's also a lot of historical like remnants, buildings and architecture that's still here today. So we're just gonna walk around the perimeter and just check out anything that looks cool pretty much. So some of the earliest history of Angel Island is, you know, Native Americans that lived here originally up to 2,000 years ago. And then after that, the next contact, or the first contact by Europeans was a Spanish exploration ship that docked off the port, the main port of the island. And then after that, ranchers began to settle, you know, raise cattle on here, and then it actually turned into a military outpost in the late 1800s with like batteries and stuff like that to protect the bay. And then ultimately it transitioned into a full military outpost, and then a immigration stop for people arriving from Asia in the early to mid 1900s. But that is actually one of the most controversial points of the island's history, is that when it was an immigration point, you know, when people were coming from China in the early 1900s, that was shortly after the Chinese Exclusion Act. So a lot of the Chinese immigrants that were arriving were being put through very like strict, not testing, I don't know what you'd say, but like quarantine, health checks, that kind of thing. And many of them, you know, many people who experienced those, you know, customs and immigration checks said that they were kind of, or not kind of, but pretty like inhumane and that kind of thing. So in the 1960s, you know, when everything was pretty much closed up, a group, a Chinese group in San Francisco actually petitioned for the island to become a state park, and it currently is and remains to be, which is pretty cool. So you can, you know, or not you can, but the history is available for everybody to check out up until this day. So pretty cool place, and yeah, keep touring. And this was the very first arcade on Angel Island right here. This is a Japanese arcade. Just kidding. I believe this is some sort of medical building. I'm sure there'll be a plaque up here and we can double check that, but the building is in pretty rough shape, but looks very cool. Alright, yes, according to the sign, this was a medical building, hospital kind of thing for soldiers back in the day who were stationed here. I'm sure the state parks is probably doing the bare minimum to keep these buildings standing, but still here. So this message is to the state parks. If you guys ever open this up to be an Airbnb, I will sign up. so we are now entering, okay, what does it say? Mule power. Oh, this is like some mule power generator thing. That's cool. So we're entering a old garrison with a lot of old original structures that housed military people. Wow. Cool. I think they have some sort of reenactment thing going on. Morning. What was it? Kidball. I think there's like an officer's house. Alright, so we just checked out some of the old garrison houses. The building on the right is actually the oldest one on the island, dating back to I think like 1863. And then the building to the left, which I got a little bit of footage inside, was from 1865. But there's like reenactors here, and they're, you know, showing like different displays and stuff like that. And I guess it only happens like 3 times a year, but a cannon will be going off soon, so maybe I'll get that on video. But yep, these buildings down here are from the Spanish-American War era, and it was kind of like a quarantine station for soldiers coming back from the Philippines. There used to be more on the opposite side, but I guess they kind of, you know, decayed and then collapsed, and then were ultimately just kind of bulldozed. You can see the cannon right there. This is an old chapel here that serviced the garrison. Looks like not many people are stopping by this area. This is kind of like the trail kind of bypasses this side area right here. This is 1800s as well. Very cool to think about soldiers coming here way back in the day. Still standing, awesome. And then there's like, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's actually some like metal down there, and I guess that was a, oh perfect, right here. That was a swing set. You can see where the chains would clip in right there, but 1800s, 1900s swing set thing. And a flat area down there, there was likely another building down there as well. So the one overwhelming thing about Angel Island that you'll notice when you arrive compared to Alcatraz is that it's freaking huge. So if you want to walk around the whole thing, I think it's like 5 miles or something like that, but it's super long. So if you do choose to come here, bring water, bring snacks. There's a tiny cafe at the front, but there's very little in terms of like, you know, decent meals or whatever. So yeah, definitely bring supplies. And there are also very few bathrooms, so keep that in mind as well. Whoa. So this is a Civil War era battery right here. They had freaking big ass cannons to protect against Confederate ships that, you know, may have made it through the opening to the San Francisco Bay. It's pretty steep down here. I think last time we came here we actually missed this, but oh my gosh, this is so cool. Wow. Obviously they removed all the cannons because they're a little bit outdated by today's standards. But the thing that's so cool about Angel Island is that there were different waves of military installations here because it's such a strategic place. Like, so if I pan this way, you can see Golden Gate Bridge right there, opening to the San Francisco Bay. So if, think about Confederate people coming down here, you're just freaking bombarding them like straight on. And then you have the city of San Francisco right there. So very strategic. But Angel Island, you know, had these batteries from the 1800s, but then they also had Nike, I don't know if you pronounce it Nike missiles at the top or at the summit of the island as well too, like ballistic missiles, I think into like the 1950s, 1960s, something like that. All right, but let's explore a little bit. Hopefully I don't eat shit. All right. Oh my gosh. 1800s, man. Wow, this is very cool. And if you're walking around the perimeter, you wouldn't even know this is here. There are no signs pointing here. I hope I don't go in here. There's some fucking oh my god, this is so creepy. Hello? Very creepy. Yeah, what the heck? This is this is mad creepy.
I know, it's so creepy. Especially there, 'cause it's like
Yeah.
dark and you can't see.
It's all open. You can go in all these.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
I went in that one. It was so creepy. Ah, this is so cool that this crap is open, actually. Imagine. Oh, wow. You can actually. You know what's sad? I'm acting all surprised because in California, everything that's like cool and historic is all boarded up and closed, and you can't go inside any of this stuff, but it's just very cool and fun to see places that you can still access. But the day that somebody steps on a rusty nail in one of these places, it's over. I wonder if like the, oh no, you can see like these like windows and stuff like that. I don't know. Was this, it was probably like storage or something like that for shells. You walk up here. There's a beer can right there, Miller Lite, excellent. Oh. Oh. Okay.
I like these metal rings.
Yeah. I wonder if that was to like anchor. Is that you?
Yeah.
What the heck do you do?
I just knocked it on the cement.
Oh my gosh. All right, time to continue walking. So you can see Alcatraz right there, which when you're on it, it feels like a pretty sizable landmass, but compared to Angel Island, it's like it's a fraction of the size. So much bigger here. So I was told by some of the volunteers, or the docents, if you will, at the Garrison area, that all of the renovation work that's done here is actually done by that volunteer group, actually, and that the California State Parks essentially doesn't really do anything at all. So it's just very sad to me to know how much money that California has to just spend on, you know, whatever, you know, things are deemed important, but then the state's history, I feel like, is being a little bit neglected. That there's all these cool old historic buildings that are just kind of let to you know, rot away pretty much. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Should the state spend some money, get involved with renovation, that kind of thing, or, you know, is it maybe not that important? Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Okay, this is a little bit interesting. So there's a rock crusher thing down there, and I was like, why the heck is there a rock crusher? But then I looked here and it looks like they were like mining, I don't know, some kind of rock. So I'm assuming to build the roads and, you know, build buildings and stuff like that, actually you just used a domestic supply of stone. And you can see this old ass rock crushing machine, pretty much, where they would dump the rock in and then it would smash it up and then go down those chutes. I'm gonna laugh if I read the little information card and I'm totally wrong. I'll keep you guys posted. Picnic tables that are behind a bunch of brush that they probably don't want you sitting at because this is unsafe. Oh, yep, boom. 1931, the Army built rock crusher to sort and crush stone. Boom, yep. So that was just to keep everything easy, supply chain wise, for the gravel to build the roads. Some of the earliest reports of Angel Island stated how green it was and how many trees there were back in the 1800s. And it's crazy because probably all of them were chopped down at some point, but now it is very wooded again. There's a lot of oaks, a bunch of oaks on this side. There's actually a lot of redwoods over here, and then a lot of different species of plants as well too, which is cool, like ferns and other, you know, coastal species. So we cannot access it, but this is the missile site right here, or one of them at least. Was one here, and then I know of another one that was kind of like at the peak. So I think up until the 50s or 60s, literally missiles could shoot right out of here. Cooled stone stairs. Sergeant Reynolds, January 1927. The area that we're walking into is kind of like the most closest thing to like a town, pretty much, the East Garrison. So there's a lot of old structures, housing structures, and you know, the post office, general store, that kind of thing. Picnic site thing, more modern, but you can see that giant abandoned building over there. There's a whole bunch of those coming up. Yeah, so this used to be or still is, I guess, technically, a field where people would play sports and stuff like that. You see the old backstop. Families playing games. Families that were stationed here would live here. Obviously, this was, you know, more higher ranking military personnel that would live here. But you can tell these have been totally renovated. I think people are currently living here today. Yep, employee residence. Old light fixtures. Better look field. So you can see how these are renovated, and then this is not as good condition, boarded up. Oh, and there's the other building right there that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, a lot of these are still standing. A lot of them have their windows still as well. Roofs seem to be in decent condition, but need paint and some yeah, general maintenance. Yeah, I see some chairs, so maybe people are living in these ones actually. But yeah, the front, I mean, it looks to be in pretty rough shape. That you can tell the that like front patio area on this one, these two, is pretty renovated, but then that one is almost falling off, it looks like. Yeah, this is the closest part to like an actual town, if you will. One thing I just noticed is this cool kind of like brick and rock, like mosaic looking thing right here. You can imagine people running from building to building back in the day with these stairs that kind of run all through here. You know, not very well maintained because people aren't using them as much, but you can imagine how lively this place used to be back in the day. The thing I love about places that, you know, there's still original structures standing is you can immediately imagine what life used to be like back when the, you know, people were still living here. A lot of these places that are just kind of wiped clean, it's like there's signs that say like, oh, this used to be going on here, but it's kind of hard to put yourself in that situation. But then a place like this where there's all these structures, you can easily imagine the activity that was going on here. So 1910, and then you can see some other buildings on this side. Administration building, boarded up, but still standing, was made well, so. Chapel, Spanish style. So even though this building is in very bad shape, it's pretty cool looking with the vines and greenery. And I think you can actually walk inside this one a little bit. I mean, there's nothing in here, but Yep, all stripped, but it's cool to think about all the activity and stuff that was going on. The bathroom was here. More buildings back there. Spanish style architecture, very cool. Very California-esque. Yep, this was a hospital. Yeah, these buildings were made pretty darn well, so they'll probably be here for a while longer, even though they aren't being, you know, maintained or anything. I guess there's no point because, I mean, what would you do with, you know, what would you do with it, I guess? I guess they can just try to keep it standing. You can see where a building was, old chimney. All right, so we're walking towards the North Garrison now, or we're entering the North Garrison. There's like an immigration museum over here, which is the, I think, kind of like the biggest draw of the island in terms of like, you know, museums, that kind of thing. So tons of structures used to be here. You can see how it's all flat and leveled, but I guess a lot of buildings were demolished in the 1970s. I don't have the specific reason for that, but there's, when we go down further, there's actually a lot of, you know, structures still standing, yeah, further down, but just, yeah, not up here as much. So we'll go down there and check it out, see what's going on in the North Garrison. The eucalyptus smell is awesome, I must say. Old sidewalk road thing. Probably used to be buildings all along this, but not any longer. Yeah, so they really weren't kidding. A lot of buildings were torn down in the 70s because, I mean, you see so many like steps and sidewalks leading to flat areas like this where there is nothing there any longer. I don't know if you can tell from the shot because this is a little bit of a wide lens, but yeah, that building right there is in pretty rough shape. And you can see that the detention barracks and monument hospital are also in Chinese, because I think this is a very popular stop for you know, Chinese Americans and Chinese to stop and see where their ancestors came when entering the United States. Yeah, okay, wow. All right, so we are entering the immigration station that is kind of, as I was saying, like the main draw of the island. The fact that Angel Island is pretty much the Ellis Island of the West Coast. Over 1 million immigrants were processed here from, I believe, 1910 up into the 1940s. Mainly all being of Asian descent from, you know, China, Japan, Philippines, that kind of thing. So a lot of people have passed through this building right here. I don't know if you can tell with the camera, but there's Chinese written in the walls.
What was interesting was the mom had seen
Poems and stories and what was going on when they were stationed here. Not stationed, but kept here, I guess.
Dude, really toy son.
Oh, really? Wow. That's so neat. A little more recent one with a pencil. Yeah, so this was, when this place opened up, it was right after the Chinese Exclusion Act, so sentiment towards Chinese, you know, nationals was not that good, and a lot of people who came here had to spend a long time, not only for like the quarantine process, but then also to prove that they had like relatives or a reason to be here, pretty much. But the one thing that I can't help thinking is like, imagine being at sea for like, you know, weeks, months, come here, and then you stay here for like a year, and then ultimately had to be turned around. And that happened a lot. That must have been incredibly rough. these inscriptions are a lot more clear here. Man, it smells old, like old wood. Wow, look at that. Oh my gosh.
This is the last one. No, actually, on my turn, it's the last one. I'm gonna introduce you.
So the walls were repainted yellow when this kind of became like a detention or holding center for Japanese and German POWs during World War II. Yeah, it was repainted to this yellow, but then when it was still the immigration and processing area, the walls were actually green, you can kind of see, and that's where the inscriptions are, is in that paint. And then when they painted over with the yellow, you can still kind of see the Chinese engravings such as this. And some areas are a little bit more prominent than others. So then downstairs was the portrayal of the women's, and then this is the men's. But then the lady said that actually like no women ever actually stayed in this building. But this was originally an immigration processing center, then transitioned to a detention center during World War II for POWs. But you can kind of see what the conditions would have looked like. These look very short, man, these beds. They're like less than 6 feet, it looks like almost. Bathroom.
How that is.
Little radiator for heat. Is there a toilet in here? Oh, is that like a sink on top of where a toilet was? Desk. Not a bad view. Alright, so this is a good representation of what the green paint kind of looks like underneath. That's how all of the carvings would have originally looked. Alright, so I looked at the map and I think the North Garrison is like the last notable place, if you will. So that concludes the trip. Thank you for watching. I know this video is like a little bit more kind of like on the beaten path kind of place, you know, state park kind of touristy thing, but a lot of cool stuff here, so you know, had to check it out. But appreciate it if you made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye out for more videos. All right, peace.